Alright, welcome to chapter 8. This should say 8 up here. We're going to be working on proportions a lot, and then we're going to move on to a few other things that aren't quite proportions. But our first lesson is identifying proportions, and then our next lesson is going to be solving proportions. So we're going to be able to explain what the meaning of the proportion, determine if two ratios create a proportion, and identify proportional relationships in real-world problems. So our only vocabulary here is proportion. So take out your vocab sheets, and let's find proportion, PQR. So P, I have that on page 14 and 15, and proportion is on 15, the second P. So it's underneath positive proportion. Okay, so proportion is when two ratios are equal. Okay, so like, for example, if I have 3 dogs to 2 cats, that's the same thing as saying 6 dogs to 4 cats, excuse me. Okay. So personal connection would be like 2 equal fractions. Okay. So again, that's what we're doing. We're doing proportions. Excuse me. Okay. Alright, so the first one says we need to write the following ratios. And it says the ratios of H's to O's. So the first thing we need to do is count the number of H's and count the number of O's. And it says H to O, which means H should be on top and O should be on bottom. Excuse me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 H's. How many O's? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 over 4. Okay, and in our ratio, we would simplify that. So we could divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So it'd be 3 to 2, or 3 to 2. Okay, ratio of P's to X's. So how many P's are there? There are 1, 2, 3. Over X's, there's 1, 2. So that would be, again, 3 to 2, and 3 to 2. So these create a proportion because they're the same. So that means they're proportional. Okay? So here we go with our examples. So we're going to determine if the following ratios create a proportion. So we have 2 options here. Okay, so with this one, either we can simplify the fractions to see if they are equal, okay, or we can convert fractions to decimals. To see if they are equal. And that we do numerator divided by denominator. Okay, so I'm going to do one example of each just to kind of get the idea. So 16 over 20. If I had 16 over 20, I could divide those both by 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay, and then I could do 20 over 25. Those are both divisible by 5. So 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. So I have 4/5 and 4/5. So since that means they're equal, the answer would be yes. Okay, the other way we could have done that is by making it into a decimal. So 16 divided by 20. Now to use a calculator. So 16 divided by 20 is 0 and 8/10. So 0 and 8/10. And then I could do 20, that's the numerator, divided by the denominator, 25. And 20 divided by 25 would be 0 8/10. Okay, so you can do either one of these. You do not need to do both. I just showed you both so that way you knew how to do it. So you can either simplify them or you can convert them to decimals. I'm going to do that one more time and then I'm going to go to C. So B, I have 60 over 56. I know I can divide those both by 4. Could have done 2, but then I'd have to do it again, I think, right? Yeah, I can do that. So that's going to be 14 on the denominator and 15 in the numerator. Okay, and 10 over 8, I could divide those both by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 15 over 14 and 5 over 4 are not the same. So this answer would be no. They do not form a proportion. They are not equal. Okay, another way you could have done that is by dividing 60 divided by 56, which gives us 0 or 1 and 7/100 about. Let's do 71 thousandths. Okay, and if I do 10 divided by 8, 10 divided by 8, I get 1 and 25/100. So I could have just seen right there that they weren't the same. Personally, I like to make them into decimals. I think that's just quicker for me, so that's why I like to do that. So this next one, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do 27 divided by 24. And then I'm also going to do 81 divided by 72. So 27 divided by 24 is 1 and 125 thousandths. And then 81 divided by 72 is 1 and 125 thousandths. So I get the same answer. So the answer here would be yes. Excuse me. All right, backside. I'm struggling. All right, Miss Ergen has to correct 27 papers every 9 days. Miss Van Lanen has to correct 30 papers every 10 days. Is Miss Ergen's papers proportional to Miss Van Lanen's? Okay, so what two things am I comparing? What two parts? I'm comparing papers to the amount of every 9 days. Okay, or I could switch it around and say days to paper. It doesn't matter which way I do it, I just need to pick one. So let's do papers to days on this one. Doesn't matter why. Okay, so for Miss Ergen, she had 27 papers over how many days? Every 9 days. Okay, Mrs. Van Lanen had 30 papers, I'm putting papers on top, to every 10 days. So I want to know if they're the same. So I could divide them or I could simplify. Well, in this case, if I just do 27 divided by 9, 27 divided by 9, that gives me 3. And 30 divided by 10 gives me 3. So is Miss Ergen's papers proportional? Are they the same? And the answer would be yes. Okay. Last one. I drove 56 miles in 40 minutes. My brother drove for 96 minutes and traveled 84 miles. If my distance is, that was supposed to say is, not if, is my distance driven proportional to my brother's? So we need to decide what two things we can compare. So it looks like we have miles and minutes. Okay, or we could switch that around and put minutes on top and miles on bottom. Doesn't matter which one you use as long as you use it for both of them. I'm going to go with this one this time. Doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to start with my minutes on top. So for me, my minutes was 40 minutes over my miles of 56. Okay, my brother did 96 minutes and he traveled 84 miles. Okay, so I could either simplify them as fractions. I'm going to turn them into decimals. So I'm going to do 40 divided by 56. calculator. Okay, and I get 0 and 714 thousandths about. Okay, over here I would do 96 divided by 84. And I get 1 and 14 hundredths about. So those are obviously not the same numbers, so my answer would be no. Okay, so proportion is when two ratios are equal. You can either simplify the fractions or convert them to decimals to determine if they are equal. Okay, and that is it.